Welcome. So I'm Mark. That's possibly the only truthful thing I might say today, because this is business talk, so there may be a high level of other things going on. I actually wanted to watch the other talk that's on at the same time as this, because it's very much like my talk. So of course I would want to watch that. I'd want to watch it before my talk so I can make sure, one, I steal any good ideas, and B, I see what works. But I'm not able to do that, so I'm going to have to wing it without seeing that and then watch the video. You can really relax in this. A lot of this you're already probably going to know, and it's actually meant to be a little more light-hearted. It's basically about the business choices you might have for choosing OpenNMS. And I'm going to run down to the later right of you. You get to play buzzword bingo. Here we go. Take your buzzword bingo card. So it is a bit more relaxed, and I'm possibly going to talk a little bit about the community and the environment of OpenNMS, because that's actually far more interesting as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to talk about it, experiencing it by being a newcomer, which is what I was. So I hope to try and keep you all amused. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to give you anything brand new that you're going to use. What I might give you is a few ideas of how a business person might see things, or ways in which you can get businesses to be a little more friendly, a little more communicative, and talk to them. And really why OpenNMS is a corporate choice without the incredible formality. So since it is light-hearted, you all have a bingo card. And also, unlike every other time I give a talk, I'm going to allow people to heckle me or ask questions during. Because let's face it, you may be funnier than me. It may be more interesting. I still have the right to ignore you, not answer your questions, or completely go off topic and not finish my slides. This happens a lot to me. So I found this guy when I was looking at Heckler, and I spent 90 minutes reading about the Heckler rather than writing my talk, because that seemed more interesting than my talk at the time. And I really like him. I've got to find the comics now. If anybody's got any of the comments of the Heckler, it looks ace. He's got some great comments in there. It's brilliant. You're really lucky to have me here today. You could have had my business partner. He's called Trout. He's the more technical person, but mostly what he usually is a rather shouty bloke who often wears a kilt, well, a utility skirt. But, you know, fun. Let's make him dance. Yeah, we can do that. I have better shoes than him. And I will be wearing different shoes every day this week. If you follow it, you will find that I'm wearing different shoes. Today I have my custom Converse on. Tomorrow we're going to have a different pair of shoes, because shoes are the thing. Shadowcat has a tagline. We use this. If you don't recognize it, it's a line from Arthur C. Clarke. And he said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That comes from Hazards of Prophecy and the failure of imagination. I've added my own twist today because I know you're all technical people and we're talking about business. And this is exactly how it works. So, buzzword bingo. During this talk, I've slipped in 40 or 50 buzzwords. I might have even recorded which slides they're on. I reserve the right not to say them, or to say extra ones. You reserve the right to fill out your buzzword bingo cards. The first person to shout bingo and actually be honest about it wins a prize. That also may be a lie. Oh, 2 people arriving late. You can come in. It's okay, you're not disturbing, it's fine. I'm just explaining buzzword bingo. You get to play buzzword bingo. It's really simple. Fill out this when you hear the word bingo. Back again. Okay, so quickly about Shadowcat. It's actually interesting for me to mention Shadowcat. It's a software consultancy, and we started off in Perl because we love Perl, and we're mostly core skills are in Perl. But I don't really want to talk that much about Perl because we grew out of being just a Perl-based shop. You can go 2 ways when you do software consultancy in open source. You can insist on one language is all and build everything in it like it was the only thing and reinvent every wheel so that they're a better wheel. Or you can embrace the whole of the open source world. You can, in fact, find the best tool that's already out there. Find it where it's in. We're about trying to make business choices for our clients. So that's business solutions. For a client, they want business focus and they want value of money. They want the least overhead with the most potential return. And that's what we do for our clients. So we estimate the best possible return for their money. We find the best tools that suits their company And more importantly, we take a step back from that, first of all, and we find the best tools that are for their people. Our best choices may not be their best choices. And that's what you have to do when you're evaluating something, is you look at the people who are going to be using it. You look at them first. Then you add the business focus. It's about examining structure and the shape of the people and the tools when you're answering specific questions or issues. And that brings us to the why. Why did we choose OpenNMS to underline part of a microservice of our Shadow NMS? What was the corporate choice for doing that? What's the business choice for doing that? Why is it a good choice? Why is it a good choice for businesses to do this and to use this particular tool? So, first issue that we had was it's Java. And Java and Perl occupy a pretty much similar space in the number of projects that they do. They have a huge different way of encapsulating things. Theirs is wrong, clearly. Ours is right, clearly. I mean, we all understand that. There's no debating it. It's not. It's just they have a different mindset. We normally wouldn't go down a Java approach. So why didn't we then rebuild the whole thing? And we could do bespoke in our own language, or perhaps find one in PHP or Scala or Python or Ruby. Why did we choose to use one that already existed? Well, that's because open source, dude, it's related to what I just said. Approach the idea of solving a problem. Don't be parochial about the specific language that it's using. Step back away from the languages. That's not the important business choice. It really is not. The important business choices happen long before that. Your important choices actually start a lot further back, and you have to do what I like to basically call a compatibility analysis. And this is a little bit like geeky internet dating. We have to look at how compatible you are to the project. So we build, I like to call it, a compatibility diagram. What we did a couple of years ago was write out on a board pros and cons, and good reasons and bad reasons for doing anything. And that's our compatibility diagram. So number one, big plus, it's an open source license. Yay! We can work with it. Number two, people, community. We thought, right, let's look at the community then. So we like communities. I said this is a love affair to community. We really like communities. We like them quite a lot. Before we started as a company, we were involved in communities and involved in projects. I did actually list some of the communities we're involved in, and we spend company time on. Now, all of these were either involved in as being on members of committees, either directors of boards. We organise workshops and conferences. And I quickly realised that I didn't want to actually tell you what we do on each one of them, because I tend to spend 5 or 6 minutes just saying boring shit about these organisations and how we're involved in them. And I realised also that I missed 2 when I looked at the slides a minute ago. So what that basically says is that we're obviously committed. And we think that being part of a community is commitment. So you commit to a social network, a project, a group. You spend time as contributors. And as a company, the company should be able to do that as well. It should be able to invest back into the projects that it's part of. You should make time inside company space. And that's very important. And it's a sell that you need to give to your business managers. If you need to do it in a kind of, I don't know, icky way, you can say, well, Google give 20% of their time. Wowza. And look how groovy they are. You can grow to the size of Google. All you need is masses of major investment early on. I mean, no, you need to randomly appear from nowhere. But you can say that. You can use the fact that people and companies do this. Facebook can contribute a lot to communities as well. Whether or not they become what we would call paid-up members, and a paid-up member is people like yourselves. A paid-up member is somebody who also commits to the project fully, so they're committing their own time as well. Because that's what we believe in. We believe in being a paid-up member. So reciprocity is the biggest thing you get from this. When individuals contribute to any project from the start, any new individual joining that gets the sum total of what came before. So if they add to it, that sum automatically increases. That's how reciprocity works. Part of. In open source, it does. The massive return for an individual is almost unquantifiable. And comes from one of my first problems I had with OpenNMS. I tried to look for numbers. Wow, there's a lot of numbers about who uses OpenNMS, isn't there? And about the size of the community. No, there are virtually no numbers of how many people use OpenNMS. So one of the figures we can probably gain from is number of commits from number of people over length of time would give us one set of statistics. I actually wanted to fill this with pretty diagrams because I like pretty diagrams, because I'm a manager and I can't infer things from long complex sentences. I need a pretty graph and they go, wow, look, that graph looks good. That's why I like OpenNMS. It gives you pretty graphs and I go, yeah, look at that graph. Yeah, yeah. Peaks, lines, wonderful. Nobody returned to 0. Another thing you need in any good community in any company, and what you have to be in your companies, is you need to be a strong advocate who is awake, challenged, forthright, always on the ball, never ever disgruntled at new things. Not the sort of person who would, I don't know, go to a project and say, I really hate this thing, it's absolutely crap. You'd never do that, would you, Ian? So I spoke to Ian when I was writing this talk, and I said, I remember you talking quite a lot about the community. So give me something meaty to work with so I can do a few slides and make my job easier. Being his boss, like he should have took that as an order. Clearly, I said it in a too friendly a way. And so he gave me what he thought was overriding reasons. This is the sum total of Ian's input into this entire presentation. Thanks, dude. You brought the swearing. You're welcome. What does OpenNMS have further? Well, it has business support. That's actually a bigger thing than you think. A lot of projects don't have this. A lot of open source projects don't have a business company behind them. We actually do have a company that's behind it. We have the open source group, OpenNMS groups. I'm going to get those two confused all the way through this now. And the OpenNMS group are really very vital. Because they do interact with the community, but they also give a very serious face to the project. I'm going to talk a little bit now about first encounters with the OpenNMS group. So 2 years ago, we decided to base this project. And so we started talking about it. And we talked to people like Marcus, and we spoke to Craig Gellan. They were very quickly convinced that we needed to talk to the actual OpenNMS group, which is why I found myself in a weird situation where I was actually on a Skype call with David, who's the CEO of the OpenNMS group. Now, I was expecting this to be a 5-minute call. A kind of, hi, who are you? Hi, who are you? Yes, I run the company now. Now go away, use my product and buy support. I thought it would be that kind of call. That's what I was totally expecting. I didn't actually get that. What he gave us was so much more and it was invaluable. And it showed basically how much he's connected with the product. So he was interested enough that he gave up about 100 minutes or so, maybe a little more of his valuable time. He does talk quite length and is really excited, so you can't stop him sometimes and say, what was that you just said? But he's really also very much happy to talk to you and happy to talk about his product. What he gave us was somewhat of a roadmap, so we got an idea of where OpenNMS was going from David. This is the CEO of a company. Normally, trust me, CEOs of companies, if you ask them about their products, possibly wouldn't be able to tell you the name of them. He knew enough that he knew all about the roadmap of this. He was engaged with his product and engaged with his community. He's also engaged with his clients. So he told us a little bit about the clients and the shape of the world that OpenNMS is used in, all the different people who are using it and the different ways that they're using it, which is invaluable when you're thinking about basing a service on something, because you're able to see what type of usage there are and what type of use cases and how you might evolve your own product inside that space. He also talked quite a lot about the teams and the developers and his relationship with them and their relationship with the OpenNMS group. Again, it gave us the evolution of things. And we got his appraisal. And we got a little bit of the history, so we found out a little bit about why OpenNMS comes from where it comes from, why it has the structured relationship it has, and pretty much why we have the contributor agreement and how that came into effect. Again, these are all vitally important things for when you're actually thinking about building the product. So having those things and having advocates for those things shows a level of seriousness that you can understand from the product. Then there was Craig. We're kind of indebted to Craig because he came and spent some time with us at Shadowcat and spoke to us and told us a lot about the community and the foundation and how that related, and also how the local and European-based interacted with the American. And that was extremely useful to us. My next selling point is it's mature software. Okay, I don't actually mean it's got grey hair and looking for a retirement plan, or that it's getting this some kind of slow crawl towards death like a tragic Shakespearean character. What I actually mean is it's past the screaming toddler stage of software. It is not throwing its poo and puke out of the pram, along with its toys. It's been around the block a couple of times, and therefore it's been evolved a couple of times. You don't have an implemented once, move on parts to it. And that is often the case in quite a lot of projects. Sometimes there are hairy bits that nobody looks in because nobody's around who actually fixed or made that problem. OpenNMS seems to have constant evolution and similar developers who've been on the project a long period of time. And that's actually very, very useful because they have a lot of understanding of how they've changed and evolved. And when you talk to companies, you actually are trying to sell them things such as words like robustness. And robustness comes from input, infrastructure, investment. These are the words that you should be noticing on your bingo cards. There's also that corporate focus. So one of the claims labeled at open source software is that it's a hobbyist area. They're hobbyist pieces, full of long-haired, bearded hackers. I don't know anybody like that, Marcus. Do you know anybody like that? No, me neither. No, never met any of them. These niche markets that they're looking at have no understanding of broader business desires. Most of these claims are made by people who don't know much about open source software and its penetration into proprietary systems, and have no understanding of how companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple are actually built in terms of their infrastructure technology and where their technical debt comes from. But we'll ignore them because what we have to do is show that there is a corporate focus, because we have it in OpenNMS. Who said this morning, we have a couple of products that show this, a couple of products that reflect those and marry those needs that we want. Development and evolution with business stability, assurance, and robustness. And thankfully, somebody made a mistake this morning, so that's funny. You always pick on somebody, really, clearly. Wish I could have followed him. So we're a consultancy, and like many businesses, when we actually do our consultancy for other people, we're actually looking at lowering their costs while charging them a large amount of money. Possibly just said that to a camera and put it on the internet. But that's what we're actually aiming to do. We charge a lot of money to bring our expertise and our abilities, so in the long run, we save them money. Because a lot of businesses are about saving money and cutting costs. And they've got a couple of ways of doing that. One of them is by making more efficient systems. The second one is by sacking people, because people are expensive. We're hopefully more about making your systems more tight and better so that you can grow and evolve your company and therefore employ more people and not sack the ones you currently have. It's always better not to sack your developers. That way you get development. Don't replace them with just consultants. That does not work at all. Yeah, let's hire these experts who are really flighty and know really intense things, and then put them on the same project for 18 months and see what they do. They burn out really quickly. Like most developers, you need a wide, broad range of things to encourage and enlighten you. We loved low cost, so we work in open source, but OpenNMS brings a lot more low-cost stuff with it. Documentation in the open source world is often frightful. It's frightful in the proprietary software world. It's worse in the open source world. Worst situation you get in a developer is you have one source of information, and that's Google and Stack Overflow. If you really want to, you can plumb the depths and go into the deep levels of Reddit. But trust me, you don't want to go down that route. Having a mature attitude towards documents is useful. OpenNMS like to think of living documents, documents that change over time with the evolution of the project. It's a very important sell, is that the documentation does not go out of date as quickly as other things can. You also have training, and training is very, very useful because it makes better developers. There's a line I like from the West Wing is, education is the silver bullet. It is the only way we progress as a society, and it's the only way we progress as individuals. Companies that don't invest in training for their work people are deluded, frankly. It's that old line. What happens if we train our developers and they get better and leave us? What happens if we don't? They get worse and stay. The value of user conferences cannot be understated. All of you people in a room, talking to each other, exploring new ways of thinking and doing stuff, absolutely useful. Nobody want to heckle. I totally would want to stand in the audience and heckle right now. Really? Oh, excellent. Yes, I do. Yes, frequently. That's my job. Management. It's supposed to suck. In the Perl world, we call a developer conference a hackathon. We have quite a lot of them. They're normally around conferences and events. We have some specialist ones like the Quality Assurance Hackathon, which is actually all about just improving the quality assurance inside Perl. And it does nothing but that. It looks at quality assurance. You guys have the developer conference. Apparently you had 2 this year. I only knew of the 1, but apparently there were 2. Is that right? Were there 2? No, there was just the 1? Just the 1. You should have had 2. Aim higher.
I missed 1.
Yeah, aim. You missed 1. You worked for the group. You missed it. Bad boy. But I hope you were told off. There's no letting down of how important having a developer conference is. Having a group of people who are the best and brightest in a room, making the project go forward, or the best and brightest and those ones you don't consider to be the best and brightest in a room, making the project go forward, can't be understated. Regular release cycles. I noticed Taurus this morning say 18 months is quite a long release cycle. It's kind of a weird thing. Some people dislike regular release cycles. In business, it can be a bad thing. There are people still on Windows from 10 years ago because regular releases actually harm a business. Other people see it the only way and an indicator of a project's popularity. 18 months between major releases. Really? Perl had 10 years once between major releases. I mean, we stopped that nonsense, but we did once have 10 years between major releases. It happens. Sometimes a major release changes so much drastically inside, you can't do that. But having a release cycle that's regular is far more important to me. I don't really see one that's in OpenNMS that's written down. They changed this in a few projects I'm involved in, where the release cycle now is regular. It pretty much is yearly, and you know what's being deprecated, and you know what the future roadmaps are bringing in the next year or 2 years. So the idea is, as a business, you can base stuff on that. However, what we do have in OpenNMS is a graceful deprecation. So you don't just pull stuff out and then break everything. I'll do a complete, we're just changing everything. Change all your systems, thanks. When we were making Shadow NMS, we're building it as a series of microservices. And technically, even though it might be icky, we can actually use different forms of NMS underneath to do different things. They don't have to be the same version. So actually having multiple versions that are graceful deprecation inside them with still existing features in the later ones actually helps us to evolve our services a lot better. And as organizations and companies who often have services that rely on older features, it's also useful to them. So not breaking stuff and having 50 plus, well, I'm not sure about 50 plus years, but not breaking stuff is useful. And you use Git really well, which is really nice. Coming across people who actually know how to use Git and have a structured approach to it is really quite enlightening. It's far better than many other people have done. And that's an interesting thing to say as well. So we actually have a sensible way of integration. Makes it a very, very stable way of integration and evolution. And the contributor agreement. So this puts some people off. And I've spoken to a couple of people who don't actually like the idea of there being a contributor agreement because it doesn't feel open sourcey enough. But really, in the light of the history and the way that the group has taken the project, the contributor agreement makes a lot of sense. And is, in fact, in terms of business, it's very reassuring. Because businesses like agreements. They like you to sign NDAs. They like you to sign contracts. They like there to be some formality and regularity. I understand that that's a certain nature in parts of Europe as well, where they like levels of formality. I mean, I've only heard this. Being English, I wouldn't know. Our level of formality is everybody thinks we're formal and we're not. Yes. No, whole card. Whole card, sorry, you should have been listening. There's loads of words. Our other big indicator of growth is that there are more downloads each month recorded of OpenNMS. This could be somebody who's got the thing set to auto-download to increase the numbers. In his castle, David sat there with a cat going, yes, it will look like everybody's using OpenNMS. Stroking an invisible cat. Always have an invisible cat if you're a bad guy. Never have a cat you can see. I spoke to Ian about it, and he said, well, it's pity it doesn't have something like a ping home thing to let us know when somebody's using it. And my brain went, yeah, that's kind of icky. Really kind of creepy. Yes, let's stalk all our users. That'll make us seem more friendly. Nobody's going to worry about that. But I really do wish that there was a way of measuring better. And I think as a project and as a focus, you need to grow your understanding of the community to grow your community. You also need to grow your understanding of the other communities around you to grow your community. This is a personal feeling, is that OpenNMS sometimes feels very insular. It's out there as a thing, and there's lots of other networking groups and communities. It would be nice to see more levels of interaction, and it would be nice to see some growth that then I can build my pretty statistical diagrams from, and then I'll be happy as a boss because I'll have a pretty graph to look at. So, 26 minutes in, haven't mentioned the product much yet, or what it does. Ha! So maybe I should tell you just one or two tiny things about it. So we're a consultancy, I've already said that. Well, they're very serious developers inside this consultancy. They don't do banana phone gags and wear silly hat days. Seriously, you know, all very, very suit and tie wearing serious people. We have a lot of knowledge of network administration, system administration experience, and a lot of understanding of the area. So we took some of the capabilities of OpenNMS, which are absolutely ace. We took the discovery capabilities, which we really like. And we're using those to inform our users what's available over time. And we're also making it trivial for them to configure by giving them pretty much restricted access via a friendly interface. That's a very simple way of saying what we do. I think we also created a sensible way to push the secondary OpenNMSs so we can ramp up our discoveries and have independent systems. It's actually designed to be sharded across multiple systems, multiple locations, multiple machines. It's also designed so that an individual user account might not necessarily be in the same area. By using microservices, we can add them to lots of different microservices and therefore make it far more intelligent to grow the system. Interface is king, so synergy between style and purpose. Simplified, portable, user-friendly, continuity of design, replacing a lot of the display aspects from typical network monitoring with simpler elements that are easier to infer from, or also known as dumbing it down for the pointy-haired bosses. But it's not just a network monitoring system. We do a little bit more than that. So we're doing some website monitoring, focusing on end users and interaction with websites, and we're doing some of that from OpenNMS. But we do some others using a different microservice, which is website speed profiling, and profiling between two different websites and doing speed test analysis. We're probably moving into doing some infrastructure verification, and I'm not going to talk too much about that because I wish I knew what the plan was. It's kind of vague up there and nebulous at the moment with, let's do that, yeah. Anybody know how we're doing that? Well, we've got some ideas. We're throwing together some ideas, which is their way of saying, yeah, we threw stuff at a wall and it fell off. So we threw more stuff at the wall fell down. We don't really know how we're doing it. And we're fully buzzword compliant because, you know, we exist in the cloud. And all our processing is cloud, man, cloud. Cloud. And that's all we need to do is go to employment fairs and go cloud, and they just love it. And we can say it's got distributed awareness. Yeah. Words that mean nothing when placed together. It's an architectural decision to have distributed awareness. I wish the architect knew what he was on when he was saying that. Our overriding reason for using OpenNMS, though, was actually the auto-discovery. Auto-discovery as service architecture is a killer feature. It really is unbelievably stunning. And PRIS is really nice as well. But auto-discovery, it means we can pretty much dumb down a lot of the configuration. And for the markets that we were aiming some of our product art was all about them looking at other things that part needed to be done down to a level that it was easy to infer from and easy for us to display from. It gave us what we need is a different appeal. So, conclusions. That's really it. The evaluation was fairly simple. Some deep technical challenges, but you face those anyway, no matter what you're using. OpenNMS, though, has the easiest implementation and uptake of its tools, backed by a professional mindset and professional organization that is clear about its corporate choices, and they're clear enough to put them right out there and say what they are as corporate choices. They back open systems, they back the free technology, they're backing their community. Added to that, you've got desire to support stratifications from individual up to enterprise, from first user to more serious user, and across the different broad communities. Really becomes the big, old, easy choice to base OpenNMS as a software solution for further software development, or for using it inside your company. So you can, if you wish, ask more business questions. They must be vague. Any questions? Nobody shouted bingo. All the words were there too. Possibly too fast though, with my strong accent. So Marcus looks most upset. Maybe I lied, maybe not all the words were there. Oh. Never mind. Oh yeah, I said mindset, yeah. Do I have to go through my slides now and say, did you say this? Yes, I said that. Did you say this? No, I didn't say that. Cloud. Okay, that's it, I'm done. Thank you very much. Pity more people didn't come walking in and out. I could have done a lot more running. Got my running in for the day. What, OpenNMS? Yeah, probably the service discovery. And of course, ease and the big community. In terms of the number of developers who actually can be visible in the community who then respond, there's actually quite a high percentage of those visible. I personally think you really need to think about growing your engagement. And you know, even doing sort of slightly weirder things, such as inviting somebody to talk from one of the other network monitoring systems and giving them a keynote and saying, come on, come tell us, and letting them see. Because that change of ideas and seeing their community can often help. And you need to perhaps see sometimes that, you've already got it. Conferences are not just about the product, they're also about the community. So there are often people inside the community who only half fit with the product. So you need to get them involved as well. And they may only involve themselves slightly. And that would be about growing community, really.